Rain washed across deck 47 of Viral Station, sliding down metal walls and dripping from old pipes. The night was quiet, cold, and almost empty. Only the soft hum of the water lines filled the air. Jace Morin, a former ranger now working as a water grid technician, walked down the long corridor toward his unit. His boots were wet. His jacket was heavy with rain. But his steps were calm. He always came home slowly, checking every light, every pipe, every panel. Old habits never left him. He turned the last corner and stopped. Someone was standing at his door. It was a woman, or something close to one. She leaned against his door frame, her hand shaking as she tried to press the door chime. Rain had soaked her thin dress. The fabric clung to her violet skin, torn at the shoulder. Her short silver hair stuck to her face. She looked weak, like she was fighting just to stay upright. Jace's body reacted before he even thought. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Are you hurt?" Her eyes lifted slowly. They were silver blue, glowing faintly under the corridor lights. She tried to speak, but only a broken whisper came out. "I'm hungry." Then her legs gave out. Jace lunged forward and caught her before she hit the floor. She was freezing cold, so light it felt wrong. Her breath was shallow, her fingers icy against his shirt. He tapped his door panel with his elbow. The door slid open, releasing warm air from inside his unit. Jace carried her in carefully, leaving a trail of rainwater behind. His home was small but clean. One couch, a tiny kitchen wall, a narrow bunk, and a window that looked out over the lower rings. He placed her gently on the couch and pulled a thermal blanket over her trembling body. Her eyes fluttered open for a second, confused, scared. "You're safe," he said softly. "Don't move." He hurried to the kitchen. He grabbed a pan, poured broth, threw in dried meat strips and root cubes. The pan hissed loudly as he cooked, the warm smell spreading through the room. Every few seconds, he looked back at her. Her breathing was slow. Her hands still shook under the blanket. Her cold skin had started to turn slightly warm again. When the food was ready, he brought the bowl to her. She pushed herself up with effort. Her hands trembled as she reached for the spoon. "Eat slowly," he said. She took the first bite. Her eyes closed as warmth spread through her. She ate again, and again, each bite steadier than the last. When she finished, she held the bowl close to her chest. "I can't pay you," she whispered. "I have nothing." "You don't owe me anything," Jace said. "You needed help." She looked down, her expression tight with shame and fear. "My name is LYSS," she said softly. "I didn't know where else to go." "Jace," he replied. "You can stay here tonight." LYSS hesitated, like she was waiting for a condition, a demand, a trap. Jace gave none. The rain outside grew softer. The heater warmed the room. LYSS slowly relaxed under the blanket, her eyes growing heavy. Jace sat in the chair beside her, keeping watch like an old soldier who still didn't know how to rest. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know why she collapsed at his door. But he knew one thing clearly. She would not be alone tonight. Soft station light slipped through the metal blinds when Jace opened his eyes. His back was stiff from sleeping in the chair beside the couch. He had barely moved all night, afraid she might wake up afraid or confused. LYSS still slept under the thermal blanket, curled up tightly. Her breathing was slow and steady now. Her hair had dried into soft silver strands that lay across the cushion. Jace stood quietly and went to the small kitchen. He wanted her to wake to something warm. He heated a pan, sliced protein strips, and added broth. The smell filled the room fast. Behind him, he heard a soft cough. LYSS pushed herself up, blinking at the light. She pulled the blanket around her shoulders quickly, hiding the thin, torn dress beneath. "You stayed in that chair all night?" she asked. Jace nodded. "You needed rest." She looked around his home as if seeing it properly for the first time. The tools lined neatly, the spare jacket on the hook, the tiny heater humming in the corner. Then she looked at him. "Did I say anything strange?" "Do anything?" she asked, voice shaky. "No," he answered simply. "You were exhausted. That's all." LYSS lowered her head. Her fingers played with the blanket edge, nervous, unsure. "Your door light," she whispered. "I saw it before I fainted. It was the only light still on." "You were walking for a long time," Jace said. "Your feet are torn up." She checked her heel. The skin was red and damaged, and she winced. "How did you end up on this deck?" he asked gently. LYSS hesitated. Her throat tightened. "I lost my access," she said finally. "The place I worked in removed me." No ID. No credits. Nothing. Jace didn't push. He knew what removed meant on a station like this. One tap on a console, and a person became invisible. I tried to find somewhere warm, LYSS said. Every door I passed was dark. Yours was the last one I could reach. Jace set the bowl in front of her. Eat. Then we talk. She tasted the food slowly this time. The warmth seemed to calm her nerves. After a moment, she spoke again. You don't have to let me stay, she whispered. I don't want trouble for you. You're not trouble, Jace said. You need time to recover. No one lets people like me stay, she said. Not without expecting something. Jace stepped back, giving her space. I don't expect anything. LYSS looked at him sharply, searching his face for the lies she had always found in other men. But there was nothing, just calm, steady certainty. She exhaled shakily. Why help me, she asked. Because you knocked, he said simply. And you collapsed. That's enough. LYSS pulled the blanket tighter around herself. For a moment, she looked like she might cry, but she held it back. What will I do now, she asked. First, Jace said, you regained strength. One step at a time. LYSS nodded slowly. It wasn't trust yet, but it was something. The rain outside hit the balcony rail softly. The heater warmed the small room. And for the first time since she lost everything, LYSS felt a small piece of safety settle inside her. She wasn't okay. Not yet. But she wasn't alone anymore. LYSS stood near the couch, holding the blanket around her like armor, while Jace searched through a small storage drawer. He finally pulled out an old black utility jacket. Worn, oversized, warm. Wear this, he said. She hesitated but slipped it on. The jacket swallowed her thin frame, covering the torn dress almost completely. For the first time since she arrived, she didn't feel exposed. Jace tapped the cuffs gently. It's not stylish, he said, but it keeps you safe. LYSS gave a small, unsure smile. Come on, he added. You need real clothes. And shoes. Her smile vanished instantly. Outside. With people. With me, he said. You'll be fine. She followed him to the door. Her steps were slow, cautious. When it slid open, the corridor air hit her, cold, metallic, full of distant machine noise. A few workers walked past, barely glancing at them. But LYSS still pulled the hood low, like she expected every pair of eyes to judge her. Stay beside me, Jace said quietly. She nodded and matched his steps. They reached the lift. The doors closed, and LYSS let out a shaky breath she'd been holding. The lift opened into the market ring, a world she hadn't seen in days. Colorful awnings stretched over food stalls. Steam rose from grills. Vendors shouted prices. The smell of seasoned protein and sweet fried dough drifted through the air. LYSS swallowed hard. Her stomach tightened with hunger she thought she no longer felt. Jace noticed. Food first, he said. Before she could protest, he guided her toward a small stand where a man grilled thick slabs of meat over a bright heater coil. The scent made LYSS dizzy. He ordered 2 plates. LYSS sat at a metal bench, hands shaking as the vendor set the food down. Jace didn't push her. He simply started eating, showing her it was safe. Only then did she lift her fork. The first bite hit her like a wave. Warm, heavy, real. Her eyes softened, and she ate slowly, trying not to cry in public. Jace spoke gently between bites. You walked a long way before you reached my door. She nodded. I thought I would collapse in a stairwell. I didn't know where I was going. I just followed lights. You made it, he said. That means something. LYSS didn't answer, but her breathing steadied. After they finished eating, Jace led her to a clothing stall. Simple cloaks hung from hooks, nothing fancy, but practical. He handed her a teal-gray one. Try this. She slipped it on. It draped over her body smoothly, hiding the damaged dress entirely. It feels strange, she said. It makes you look like everyone else, Jace replied. That's good. Next, they stopped at a shoe vendor. LYSS stared at the rows of sturdy boots like she was looking at treasure. I don't know how to choose, she whispered. Pick what feels safe, he said. She pointed to a pair of ankle boots, plain, dark, durable. She tried them on, surprised at how steady they made her legs feel. They fit, she said softly. Then we take them. Jace paid without hesitation. As they walked back toward the lift, LYSS stayed a little closer than before, not hiding, but staying within reach. Halfway there, she spoke in a small voice. People in the lounge, nobody ever gave me choices. Not real ones. You're choosing now, Jace said. That's what matters. She stopped walking for a moment and looked at him. The market lights reflected in her silver blue eyes. Why do you keep helping me? She asked. Jace looked back without flinching. Because you needed someone to stand with you. LYSS held his gaze for a long second, something soft, unsure, and new growing inside her. Then she whispered, barely audible. Thank you. They stepped into the lift together. For the first time since he found her at his door, LYSS did not pull away when the doors closed. She stood close. On purpose. For the next day and a half, LYSS stayed close to Jace's small flat. She walked slowly but steadier now, her new boots helping her balance. She wore the teal cloak almost all the time, even inside. It made her feel less visible, less afraid. Jace fixed a loose panel near the balcony window while LYSS watched from the couch, trying to learn how he worked. She asked small questions, simple ones, curious but careful. Do you fix everything yourself? Most things, he answered. It keeps my mind quiet. LYSS nodded. She liked his calm. It made the room feel safe. But around midday, everything changed. A loud chime echoed through the flat. Not the soft doorbell he used. A sharper, official tone. LYSS froze instantly. Jace stood, wiping his hands on his shirt. Stay behind the wall, he said gently. She pulled her cloak tight and slipped behind the corner, heart racing. Jace opened the door only halfway. A woman in a pale uniform stood outside, holding a datapad. Her expression was polite but cold, the kind of face trained to show nothing. Resident Morin, she said. We received a report of an unregistered non-human entering your unit 2 nights ago. Jace didn't blink. She collapsed outside. I brought her in. The officer tapped her pad. Station rules require all visitors to be logged, especially non-residents. She was unconscious, Jace said evenly. That does not remove the rule, the woman replied. If she is still present, she must be documented. LYSS pressed her hand over her mouth, breathing quietly. She had seen people like this before, uniforms that didn't care about stories, only rules. The officer continued. Unregistered individuals are considered risk factors. If there is no record of her stay, removal procedures will begin. Jace's jaw tightened. You're not removing anyone. The woman raised an eyebrow. Then you know the only option. You must file a household stability partnership entry. It will list her as your dependent until full review. LYSS felt her knees weaken. Dependent. The word stung like an old wound. Jace didn't hesitate. I'll file it. The officer nodded and sent the form to his datapad. You have 1 station cycle to complete it. If not, a compliance team will follow up. She turned sharply and walked away. Jace closed the door quietly. LYSS stepped out from behind the wall, face pale, hands shaking under the cloak. Partnership entry? She asked. That sounds like ownership. It isn't, Jace said calmly. It's protection. Legal protection. LYSS looked down at the floor. But that's something families file. Real families. Jace stepped closer, not touching her, just making sure she saw his expression. It keeps them from dragging you out, he said. It gives you the right to stay. With me. Safely. LYSS swallowed hard. Her voice softened to a whisper. You want to file it? For me? Yes. Her throat tightened. There's something you should know. I have no ID. No record. Nothing the system recognizes. I know, Jace said. This form gives you one. LYSS looked up slowly. Her eyes glistened, not from fear this time, but from something deeper, something heavier. What do you need me to do? She asked quietly. Stay, he said. Eat. Rest. The paperwork is my part. LYSS sank onto the couch, breathing hard. The room felt warm again, but her thoughts spun in circles. She had never belonged anywhere. Never been claimed except as property. Now, for the first time, someone wanted her to stay, not as an object, not as decoration, but as a person who mattered. Jace returned to the kitchen, letting her think. The sound of him preparing food, a steady rhythm of chopping and heating, calmed the air around them. LYSS watched him, her hands slowly relaxing. Jace, she said softly. He looked over his shoulder. Does this make me a burden? No, he said. It makes you part of this home. LYSS lowered her eyes, overwhelmed. Part of a home. She had never heard those words meant for her. And for the first time, she wanted them to be true. LYSS sat on the couch long after the officer left, hands wrapped tight around the cloak. The flat felt different now. Not unsafe, but heavier, as if one decision could change everything. Jace placed a warm cup on the table in front of her. "Drink," he said. "You need the heat." She wrapped her fingers around the cup. The warmth steadied her breathing. "Jace," she began softly. "That form, the partnership one, it's not a small thing." "I know," he said. "It ties me to your home. To you." "That's the point," he replied calmly. Lyss looked down, struggling with the knot in her chest. "I'm not used to being someone's anything. Not in a good way." Jace pulled a chair closer and sat across from her. "Not too near, not too far." "You're not being claimed," he said. "You're being protected." Lyss swallowed hard. "People like me, we're not meant to stay. We're meant to be moved around, used, replaced." "Not here," Jace said. "Not with me." Silence settled between them, not awkward, but full of things she didn't know how to say. To break the tension, Jace stood and picked up a small toolkit. "Come here. Let's fix that cloak." She blinked. "It's fine. It's fraying at the edge." "Sit." She obeyed, sitting on the low stool as Jace knelt beside her. He clipped a loose thread, stitched the hem with careful, steady hands, just like he had repaired her dress before. He didn't touch her skin. He didn't make her feel exposed. He simply worked. Lyss watched him, something warm rising in her chest, something unfamiliar. When he finished, he looked up. "Better." She held the cloak gently. "Why are you doing this much for me?" "Because you're trying," he said. "And that matters." Her breath trembled. Jace stood. "Come on. Let's check your balance again." Lyss rose slowly. Her legs felt steadier today. Jace guided her across the room, watching how she walked. When she reached the door and turned back, he nodded. "Your strength is returning." "Good." Lyss felt a small spark of pride. "I'm learning." "You are," he said. "Faster than you think." They returned to the couch. Lyss sat carefully, holding the cloak around her shoulders like a shield. After a long moment, she whispered, "If I sign that form, what am I to you?" Jace didn't look away. "Someone I won't let this station crush." Her voice grew even softer. "Not a project? Not a problem you're fixing?" "No," he said. "You're a person who deserves a place to breathe." Lyss blinked back a tear. She wasn't sure if it was sadness or relief. She took a long breath. "I've never been allowed to choose my life. Not even small things. Clothes, food, where to sleep. It was always decided for me." "You're choosing now," Jace said. She met his eyes. "Then I choose to stay." Jace nodded once, calm, steady, but something bright flickered in his gaze for the first time. "We'll complete the form," he said. "Together." Lyss moved closer, pulling the cloak tighter. Her hands shook, but not from fear this time. She tapped the datapad he placed in front of her. It displayed the registration form, blank except for their names. "This makes it real," she whispered. "Yes," he said. Lyss inhaled, held her breath, and pressed her fingertip to the signature field. The datapad chimed softly. "Partnership entry submitted." Lyss stared at the screen, stunned. "I exist in the system now." "You existed before," Jace said. "Now the station can't pretend you don't." Her lips trembled into the smallest smile she'd ever made. As Jace cleared the table, Lyss watched him with a quiet, glowing realization. This wasn't just safety. This was an accident. This was belonging, something she had never been offered, never dared to hope for. She pulled the cloak around her and whispered to herself, "I'm not alone anymore." Lyss woke the next morning before Jace. Not from fear, just from the strange new feeling of having slept safely. She stepped quietly to the window and watched the lower rings of the station glow with morning lights. For the first time, the view didn't make her feel small. It made her feel curious. Jace joined her a moment later, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Better," Lyss said. "A little stronger." Jace nodded and turned to check his datapad. His face tightened. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Pressure spike," he said. "The water lines on this deck shouldn't be jumping like that." He opened a live view of the grid. Several red warnings blinked. "Something's wrong with the flow regulators," he muttered. Lyss stepped closer. "Is it dangerous?" "It can be," he said. "If the pressure keeps climbing, the lines could burst. Whole deck loses clean water." Lyss watched the screen. The map showed the exact routes she had walked on her first night, dark hallways where no one stopped to help her. "Can I come?" she asked quietly. Jace looked up. "You sure? You said I was part of this home," she replied. Then I should help. He didn't argue. Into the lower shafts. A few minutes later, they were both in the maintenance corridor. Dim lights flickered. Pipes hissed behind metal panels. The narrow walkway vibrated from machinery deeper in the station. LYSS stayed close behind Jace as he opened a side hatch. Inside was a small utility tunnel filled with low, steady hums. Be careful, he said. Some of these lines are high pressure. LYSS nodded. She followed, placing her boots exactly where Jace stepped. As they moved deeper, Jace checked each valve, each junction, each pressure monitor. His calm voice guided her. Hold this light. Watch the meter. Tell me if the number drops. LYSS felt herself learning quickly. But halfway through the tunnel, she noticed something strange. A thin metal panel had been forced open. Scratches lined the edges. A wiring port was exposed, and someone had inserted a cheap bypass chip. This wasn't an accident, she said quietly. Jace crouched and examined it. His expression hardened. You're right. Someone did this. Why? She asked. To cause trouble, he said. Or to pull me away from the flat. LYSS felt a chill run down her spine. Because of me? Jace didn't answer. He didn't need to. Sabotage. The pressure indicator next to the panel began flashing yellow. Then orange. Then red. LYSS grabbed Jace's sleeve. It's rising again. Jace moved fast. He pulled the bypass chip out and rewired the lines manually. The pressure stabilized for a moment, then spiked again from another junction further ahead. Someone hit multiple points, he said. On purpose. LYSS felt her stomach twist. Jace, I think someone saw me with you yesterday. At the market. He looked at her. Who? People from the lounge, she whispered. Men who worked for the owners. They don't like runaways. Jace's jaw tightened. Then they picked the wrong deck. Working together, they reached another junction box. It was also tampered with. Jace knelt and handed LYSS a small tool. Hold this steady. LYSS pressed the sensor rod against the pipe. Her hands didn't shake, not this time. She listened to Jace's instructions, reacting quickly and calmly as he sealed the leak. In that small, tight tunnel, the two of them worked like they had been doing this for years. Each time they fixed a junction, the pressure map on Jace's datapad improved. For the first time, LYSS didn't feel like a burden. She felt capable, useful, seen. The final valve. At the end of the tunnel, they found the main regulator, half open and dangerously unstable. LYSS's heart pounded. If that breaks, the whole deck loses water, Jace finished. Help me hold it. He gripped the valve. LYSS placed her hands over his, adding her strength. Together, they turned the heavy wheel. 1 click, 2 clicks, 3. The line stabilized with a deep, satisfying thrum. Jace exhaled. We did it. LYSS smiled, truly smiled, for the first time since coming to his door. We, she repeated softly. Back at the flat, Jace filed a report showing mechanical tampering. He didn't mention LYSS. He protected her name like something precious. When he looked up, she was watching him with bright, steady eyes. You didn't have to take me with you today, she said. No, Jace replied. But I'm glad you came. LYSS touched the repaired edge of her cloak. For the first time, she said quietly, I feel like I helped build something, not break it. Jace met her gaze. You did more than help, he said. You stood with me. And LYSS realized something. She wasn't just staying in his home anymore. She was becoming part of his life. After the valve crisis, the station felt different to LYSS. Not safer, but no longer impossible. She and Jace returned to his flat tired, clothes dusty from the tunnels, hands still marked with thin lines of grease. Jace set his tools down. LYSS sat on the couch, breathing slowly, letting everything settle. For the first time since coming to his door, she didn't feel like she was waiting for something bad to happen. Jace stirred a pot of stew in the kitchen, letting the warm smell fill the room. We'll need to keep watching the grid, he said calmly. If someone sabotaged it once, they might try again. LYSS nodded. I want to help. If you'll let me. I will, he said. You did well today. She looked down at her hands. I didn't think I could help anyone. Not ever again. You helped me, he said. And you helped this deck. LYSS felt a soft, warm ache in her chest, something like pride, something she had never felt for herself. The notification. As they ate, Jace's datapad buzzed. A new message appeared on the screen with an official seal. LYSS stiffened. Is it bad? Jace opened it and scanned the lines. A slow breath left him. No. It's good. What does it say? Your partnership entry was reviewed early, he said. They approved it. LYSS froze. Approved? She whispered. That means? It means you're registered, Jace said. You're protected. You're legally part of this home. LYSS covered her mouth with her hand. Her eyes filled, not with fear, but something close to relief she didn't know how to hold. I've never belonged anywhere, she whispered. Not even on paper. You do now? Jace said. She looked at him with a softness she had never used for anyone before. Thank you for giving me a chance to exist. You gave yourself that chance, he replied. I only stood beside you. Small changes, big meaning. Over the next hour, the flat felt different. Not bigger, not louder, but more alive. LYSS placed her cloak on a proper hook instead of draping it over a chair. She lined her boots neatly near the door. She even folded her repaired dress and set it on a shelf. Tiny things. But each one said, I live here now. Jace watched quietly, letting her take ownership of the space at her own pace. When she finally sat beside him on the couch, she didn't curl into herself like before. She sat normally, relaxed, letting her shoulders drop. This is the first time a future didn't scare me, she said. What do you want that future to look like? Jace asked. LYSS thought for a long moment. I want to learn real skills, she said. I want to help with the grid. I want to walk through the market without hiding under a hood. She hesitated, then added softly. And I want to stay here. With you. If that's allowed. Jace didn't hesitate. It is. A new beginning. The last of the station lights dimmed into evening mode. Rain began again, tapping gently against the balcony rail, the same sound that filled the night she arrived. LYSS stood by the window, watching the droplets race down the metal glass. Jace joined her, standing close enough that she felt his presence without needing to look. She turned to him, her voice quiet but steady. When I came to your door, I thought I was at the end, she said. Now, I think it was the beginning. Jace nodded. Sometimes the right door is the hardest one to reach. LYSS smiled, a real, warm smile that reached her eyes. Then I'm glad I reached yours. They stood together silently, listening to the rain. Not two strangers. Not a rescuer and a runaway. But two people who had fought through fear, danger, and broken rules to build something fragile and new. Something worth protecting. LYSS wasn't just safe. She wasn't just registered. She wasn't just sheltered. She had a home, a future, and a place, finally, a place where she belonged. The story ends here, but their life together is just beginning.